Red light's on.
Dan, is your red light on?
Not today. Some things needed a rest, recover, tighten, that good stuff.
Yeah. Woo. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Third Degree, the podcast, is brought to you by Soccer90.com, your source for all your FC Dallas U.S. national team and international club gear. Check out the new national team gear that's arrived just in time for Copa America and Euro 2024. Argentina, France, Germany, Brazil, all the big guns are in stock now. As a Third Degree listener, get 20% off in-store or online with the code Third Degree. Just mention it at checkout or use it online. Soccer90.com. Some exclusions may apply. This episode of Third Degree, the podcast, is also brought to you by the Lindstrom Law Firm. For wills, trusts, probates, and business law, call 469-515-2559 or visit lindstromlawfirm.com for a free consultation.
Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another episode of Third Degree, the podcast. I am told that this is numbered 261, and it's a victory podcast. Woohoo! As Dallas beats Houston 2-0, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But first, the trio is together, myself, Peter, and there he is, Dan Crook. Howdy, Dan.
Oh, hey. How's it going?
I suppose it's going just fine. Thank you for asking. And your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder, thirddegree.net, the original soccer influencer himself, and live from somewhere in sunny Florida, the great Buzz Carrick. Literally, come in, Buzz.
Hello from Key West, Florida.
The most southern point of the United States of America.
Yeah, I went by there just yesterday, in fact, and today.
How much partying have you done? Oh, wait, is Amy with you?
Yeah, she's here. Yeah.
Are y'all swinging?
Oh, no.
Okay, it's Key West after all.
Yeah, I passed a couple houses with pineapples out front, though, so I've learned.
Were they upside down? Or?
Oh, is that the thing? It's got to be. See, I'm not even dialed in on the code.
I think it's Adirondack chairs and upside down pineapples.
Upside down pineapples. I didn't know it was upside down. All right, I have to work on that.
I always wondered how you said that. Not the pineapples, the Adirondack part.
Yeah, Adirondack chairs, yeah. Excellent. I finally taught Dan something for once.
Yes.
It's a miracle. I learned an English word.
Well, listen to how happy and gleeful the three of us are today, because Dallas 2, Houston 0. Dallas gets its first win in a very long time at a much-needed time, and it probably just double sweet that it is the true Texas derby that it happens in. But it comes with a but, Buzz. Should we just ignore the but and not talk about the but?
No, I think you have to admit the but is there.
Okay. Yeah. Houston got a red card 5 minutes in and played 85 minutes, a man down, and Dallas scored just twice. But even a but has a but. A win is a win is a win, and maybe this gets the team off the snide.
Yeah, certainly when you're playing a rival, and when you're as bad as Dallas has been, it's a win no matter what. You get to win at all costs. The red card makes it hard to do a lot of deep analytics or anything. But nonetheless, in the end of the day, you have to play the game and you have to actually win. There have been times where this club has not managed to do that, despite being up of a man the whole time. And certainly against a team like Houston, which is a very defensive team, they're structured a lot like Dallas in a lot of ways in terms of the defensive first mentality. So 2 goals is a positive, a good XG to go with those 2 goals is a positive. So given the struggles the club's had, you can't be anything about positive in terms of like, is there things we can take away here? Oh yeah, there's some good things we can take away from. We shouldn't go overboard, but we should enjoy the moment for what it is.
Is there one thing we can add? The red card even is a good thing for FC Dallas because finally a good wing-back run. If you ignore the man in the center who played Marco onside to begin with because he was too lazy to look across the line, but still positive.
I was gonna say, Buzz. I think the question that is fairly up for asking is if Dante Seeley had been playing left wing back in that exact same moment, would that scenario have taken place?
It's possible because Dante's forte or his desire is to get forward. It's not that part that he hasn't been doing. Not that it's been colossal, but at least he has been getting forward somewhat. It's the defense he hasn't been doing. The difference between him and Farfan is that Farfan brought a two-way game instead of a one-way game. And that's the significant positive for Dallas going forward is that when you have a wingback that can play both ways, because the way Dallas plays it, you have to have them play both ways. So yeah.
Yeah, but see, I'm wondering, and going back and watching this, if Dante had been playing that position, would he have started so far deep in his own defending half and not been maybe more up in midfield, which would have attracted a defender in the first place?
Yeah, very possible. I also don't know if he would have necessarily been moving full speed that fast. Dante can be late to read the game sometimes and react in a positive way.
Be that central for it to be denial of a goal scoring opportunity either.
Yeah, that's potentially fair too. So I'm quite sure that you're correct that if it had been Dante, the circumstances would not have been exactly the same, and it probably would not have resulted in a red card. But it's not that they got a red card that's a good thing. The good thing is that the player that they had in that spot finally was a player that can play both ways. That's far more important than an individual red card in this game, as it is that it's such an important element that they've been missing on the left side.
Yeah, it's probably unfair to Dante to poke on him on this, and it's even more unfair not to highlight the smart play by Farfan, who we finally got to see play. Is this his first minutes of the season?
Yeah.
So literally his first touch of the ball, he ends up creating this advantage for his team.
Yeah, it's close to the first touch. And look, to be fair,
Marco.
Yeah, we knew Dante Seeley was going to need to learn to play defense, and it has not been going as well as we thought. I did not know that Marco Farfan had as much offensive game as he displayed in this game. I knew Sam Junka had that. We've seen that from Sam Junka. We had not seen it from Farfan. So it was really pleasant to see him provide a two-way game. And even if it's not scintillating, it's at least threatening enough that the defense had to respond to it. And that having the defense respond to that outside channel, and for the very beginning when we talked about this formation, we talked about how the wingbacks have to become the outside channel in that forward V that you create, that all these modern teams create. And Dante Seeley hadn't been doing that, and Farfan did. And that's the difference.
So, not to be going, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Not to dwell on the past, but knowing what we know after this game and seeing Marco Farfan show some offensive gusto, where was that last season?
That's an outstanding question, because he's never really demonstrated that before.
Is that because he was told not to do it?
It's very possible. I have talked to the various outside backs on this team enough to know that this coach obviously preaches a heavily defensive game and a heavy defensive responsibility game, and that is the priority. And so both Farfan on that side and Tuamasi or anyone else on the other side knows that they have to give the defensive responsibility first. So it's very possible that we haven't seen as much offense out of Tuamasi under this coach as we saw when he was in USL, or have we seen any from Farfan? It's very possible they just didn't know they were supposed to, or they knew they weren't supposed to, and so now in this shape they know they're supposed to. So maybe we'll see some of that more. Hopefully, we'll see more out of Ima.
It's interesting. So I think you or someone else mentioned that Marco's qualities as a wing back that was a bit unexpected in Discord, and I don't know why it just came to mind at the time. Do you remember when he first signed? And we go back and look at clips from LA and Portland. He was really good in Portland at getting forward and pinging crosses in, and we just never
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well,
we never saw it, so why would you remember it?
Yeah, fair. I guess the question does. I mean, I'm appreciating the fact that we got to see him for the first time, and he played as well as he did, and he did, helped the team out instantaneously. But the reality is the first 45 minutes goes by, and in fact, another 10 minutes goes by, and Dallas was obviously the more dominant team and had some chances, but it took them a full another, half and 10 minutes to score, finally break Houston down and score. And in that amount of time, it still feels and looks like a very broken team in many ways, Buzz.
Yeah, there's still a lot of things that we don't like. Even for example, I'll use one of the stats from the game that drove me crazy, which was a really positive, you would think on the surface, 24 or 25 shots to 2 for Houston, which just shows you the dominance that occurs when you are up a man. But FC Dallas only got 5 of those on goal. So that left them with 24 shots with an XG of just over 2. It was the highest XG of the year, don't get me wrong, that's nice. But remember how we've talked all along about how this team has to be efficient. And that only 5 shots on goal out of 24 is not very efficient at all. And so that's a red flag. But, again, we're still looking at a team that's like, we still haven't seen all the pieces. We still know Frazier's more of a defensive first midfielder. We still know that Ema on the right is not giving so far as enough offense as we'd like to see him do. We know that he's capable of in the past. We know that, they started Delgado as one of the wings, who's a defensive midfielder, in order to create that box around midfield, which was a very effective technique, but is not going to get you a lot of creative inlet sort of passes. Same with Paul Arriola, is not playing that great, is still doing more than most other people. So there's just not a high caliber team cooking on all levels right now, but again, when you have this red card, it's super hard to go super deep on analytics because everything is so out of whack. But it definitely is a team that's still trying to find itself.
So what do you is Farfan being pulled at halftime a reflection of the fact that they weren't creating or weren't successful in scoring a goal in the first half and thought they needed something else, or was he on a minutes restriction? I'm
assuming it's a minute restriction because he had just come back from the concussion, and before that he had the back. It's not a stretch fracture. He had a tiny little crack, and so I'm sure part of the reason he hadn't played it this year was because he wasn't quite fit, because he had been out before that with some kind of groin problem, I think it was. So, there's lots of reasons why you keep him on a minute restriction of just 45 minutes. I don't think that he was pulled for bad play and by any stretch of imagination, because I think he played really well. But at the same time, coach is also trying to get other guys going, and we know he's trying to get other guys going. So, it's not always going to be as straightforward as just minute restrictions, So, I mean, some of the guys that have came in the second half are the guys that he desperately wants to get going, whether it be Kamungo, whether it be Logan Farrington, I don't think we should take it as an indictment of Farfan. I have not asked yet, but I'm pretty sure it's a minute restriction.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to imply that it was he was moved or pulled because of his performance. I thought maybe he was pulled because they wanted somebody even more attacking minded when you're playing with a man advantage. That made sense to me too. But I didn't know if it was more about that or more about a minutes restriction. That's what I was trying to figure out.
I would think, well, they hadn't scored at that point, so maybe they wanted to go more offensive, but at the same time, it's like he also is desperate to get Kamungo going. So it might just be more about, here's another chance for me to get that guy in, and when they're going to be a man up and he's going to feel really good about it. I even talked about the chance I thought he might start Kamungo to try and bring some offense to the outside of the field and make Houston have to spread their midfield a little bit because they play pretty narrow. So I'm sure that was all part of the tactic. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it because I'm out of town, but I can't, it's all in there. It's all part of it.
Dan, were you as confused as I was when you saw Patrickson starting in the left forward position in this game, at least according to the way that the team drew it up in their pregame listing?
Yeah, I get the idea of playing him in that kind of box 4, but the way they drew it up, it was almost like, he's playing as an inside forward, which just didn't seem like it should play to his strengths.
He's playing Velasco's spot.
Yeah, he really was.
What was everybody's takeaway from his performance there?
I thought it was okay. He's not in there to try and spring people, and yet he still had 3 key passes, which is a pass that generates a shot. So, he's a young player and he has the ability to pass a little bit, but I don't think that he was in there for that. I think he was in there to corral. By far the strength of the Houston team is that midfield I know Hector Herrera didn't start, but they still had Coco. They still had Artur. So, that you needed to corral that. And I think that's why they went with him over some of the other choices they could have in that moment. How the defensive mind of this coach is. You could have put in Bernie in that spot. You could have put in Siki in that spot. But just both those guys are not 100% capable defensive responsible players, where Delgado is much more locked in on that kind of thing.
Okay. Musa had obviously a big night for Musa. He scored. He had several shots. Dan, Buzz, you want to throw out any hot sports opinions on where Petar Musa is at this point? With I think he's on 3 goals for the season.
I think he's on a really good pace. I like where he's at. I like that there hasn't been any sign of letdown from him, even when he was clearly frustrated. I was really excited about the early sort of interesting stuff that was happening between him and Jesus. Clearly, they need a lot more time together, but there were flashes in that play that I thought was really exciting. I think that the nice thing about Musa is that he's so distracting for the defenders and for the center backs. He requires so much attention. Like when he makes those little runs through the middles, like 2 or 3 players will track him and go with him. So he's fighting against multiple double teams all the time. So I like where he's at, given all the factors of what's going on with his team, frankly.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've had so many years without like typical high 9 play. The run, I mean, for the goal, I can't think of too many 9s in recent years that are going to actually pull that wide, get space on the defender and cross it, and put it across the keeper successfully. Plenty are going to get it as close to the byline as possible and just try and smash it out of play. And then there was a run late on through the midfield. Defender took him down, took a yellow card, and that's just the kind of run where you would have a Maxi Urruti or Jesus or someone who's back in a defensive third or at the halfway line, not kind of making those progressive runs to put FC Dallas in a position of success.
So we haven't really talked about the back 3, which was Junka, Tafari, who returned in a starting position, and Ibiaga. And it's hard to judge their performance in this game because obviously Houston was struggling with playing a man down. But before Dallas scored, it wasn't like Houston didn't have a couple of opportunities. And their left winger, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, Alviu? Is that how you pronounce it, Buzz? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, he's speedy and quick, and he almost had a really good opportunity. And I guess the point is, what I'm trying to ask, I continue to be very, very concerned about this team's defensive skill sets. And until they scored and took the lead, I think we all probably had a very fair concern that Dallas was still going to somehow figure out a way to give up a goal, even though they had a man advantage.
Yeah, I did in a macro sense of like Dallas occasionally flubs games like this. I feel like where they're supposed to win, or that they know with the man advantage they should win, or they think they're gonna win and they don't just do enough to get it done. But I never really felt like Houston threatened all that much, honestly. I mean, they had a few shots, but I didn't really feel like they were that dangerous. The Dallas back 3 was acceptable. I'm not going to go much more than that. It'd be obvious ended up being a lot of people's man of the match.
Yeah, man of the match. Yeah,
and he made team of the week, but that's skewed because of the goal. You give him a lot of credit for getting forward on the goal. It's a nice goal, but how did he play other than that? I thought all 3 of those guys were relatively good. Stable, calm. Paz is fine. I don't. Having Farfan as a more defensive mindset on one side and Tuamasi a more defensive mindset on the other side, I really felt like they had that under control.
I found a weird, interesting stat. FC Dallas only had 1 successful tackle in their defensive third, and that was Liam Frazier.
Yeah, I want to be positive about the fact that they won, but my big takeaway from the game is that I do think that when you're at home, your team is playing with a man advantage for 85 minutes. It's weird to say, but there is a part of me that would have expected a even better result out of this, and I think there is still some pretty clear signs, Buzz, that this team has a lot of work to do.
Well, we talked about them putting this defensive box around midfield, and Delgado was in there, not a creative player. Farfan, who is not necessarily a creative player, but did a much nicer job than we expected.
Mm-hmm.
Tuamasi, we've talked about how he is not as offensive as he used to be, because of this preaching of the defense they put on him. When Bernie came in and he did some nice things, but he's still out of sorts. He's not really creating, and Paul's not really creating. So it's actually stunning that they had a 24 shots. That's incredible. But we do red flag the idea that it wasn't efficient, which is really important with this team. In terms of the back, I thought that for the most part they actually did a really nice job passing out of the back. But that's because Houston is not a high press team.
And they're
certainly down a man. They're not a high press team. So
right.
Okay, great. I love it. That's been a bad area for this team, is like being able to get it out of the back. Well, of course they were able to get out of the back, but you still gotta like seeing guys like Junka and Nkosi passing it in like a 93% clip, and that's really nice. And of course Illarramendi's over 90% and Ariola's over 90%. It's just they just weren't under a lot of pressure. And this is a team that this year, when they have not been under pressure, I think have looked better. This year they're not handling well teams that press them. They're not. The week before was just the week before where we were talking about how awful they looked against Colorado in the first half, when they couldn't even get out of the back at all, and they were trying to go more vertical. So obviously, one game doesn't turn the season around. So we just take these small positive moments. The addition of Farfan, the continued phenomenal play of Illarramendi, who's just a breathtaking player, and went 90 minutes in this one as he stretched his minute load. Jesus getting back, and even though he got 30 on a minute restriction, it's still nice. When your season was as bad as it was, where all we were talking about who the next coach was going to be, for them to have gotten a win and see some positive ideas, hopefully they can carry that forward, and hopefully we can see this team move into a positive direction, because it could real quickly go south again, and we could be back to talking about who the next coach is going to be.
One player you mentioned was Ima Tumasi. Look, I only saw the 7-minute highlights package because Apple did away with that nice 15-minute condensed version. But Ima Tumasi had some pretty nice numbers for a wingback. So I just wondered, obviously numbers only tell part of the story, right? So I wondered kind of what your take on how he played was.
I thought it was better than it has been in terms of a two-way contribution. But again, how much of that was just them being down a man and him feeling free? How much of it is coach who has been telling Tuamasi and Farfan to be defensive first or defensive only for 2 years now, is now telling them to be two-way players? Sometimes we don't get enough necessary information out of the locker room to know for sure. So I do think that Ima tried to do more and got forward more than we've ever seen him get forward before. He doesn't look like Vancouver's excellent wingbacks or Columbus or anything like that, but it's a real positive. I thought it was a positive improvement for him over what we'd seen earlier this year. The biggest thing for him though was because he came out of the spring, in my opinion, about 10 pounds too heavy. He's dropped all that, and he now looks like he's supposed to look, and his fitness is close to back to being completely game fit. He's a completely different player now than he was a month ago. So. If they continue to field him in that role, I think he'll continue to improve in that role.
Yeah,
context.
I was just going to say before you go on, before they went up, before the red card, I was starting to get frustrated with Tuamasi because he turned the ball over deep in Dallas's half at least twice, if not 3 times, and he looked like he was really struggling. His game improved greatly when Houston kind of took their foot off the pedal after the red card. So my sense about Tuamasi at this point is still very much TBD when they're having to play even-handed and all of that. So.
Yeah, I don't think I think that's perfectly fair. The thing about Tuamasi, his biggest detriment this year, the thing that's going to hold him back the most, is Paul Arriola's $1.7 million salary. Because you can't really, as a coach and a technical director, have a dude making that kind of money sitting around not playing.
Oh yeah.
So that dude's going to play.
But Paul also has a mindset that Emma just doesn't have, which is somebody feeds the ball to Amasi out wide, and his first instinct is to play the ball backwards. He just never seems to want to capitalize on the space that is afforded him in the attacking half of the field. He never seems to want to take on his defender, and it really drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's a shame because he wasn't like that in San Antonio, and it's not San Antonio, sorry, Austin.
Yeah.
And I think that they've coached it out of him, which is a shame. But at the same time, Paul obviously has played at a much significantly higher level, but then he's not as good defensively as Ime is. So, the bottom line is that when you're talking about a player getting paid that kind of money, when you get some other healthier guys back, the coach is still going to want to try to his very best to get Paulo Ariel on the field. Mm-hmm. And you're also going to have Giovanni coming back even before Alan Velasco coming back. So it's Chilmasi is also going to have to compete with Giovanni too. So that's actually even one of the most crowded positions on the field, because don't forget you also even have Herbert Indele, who started the only game that FC Dallas has won 11-on-11 this year. So, and it says the clock the fastest speed of any FC Dallas player this season. So, they still got him working his way up too. So it's one of the most crowded positions on the entire roster, that right wing back spot.
It is interesting that Dallas wins a game 2-0, and Martin Paz makes 0 saves. He's forced to make 0 saves.
I'm okay with that. Okay. Yeah.
That's Indonesian citizen Martin Paz.
Yeah,
wait. So I thought that was off.
Well, he went through with the citizenship. We've heard tale that him playing for them is off, but he obviously went through with the citizenship.
But didn't we also hear, if you are a Dutch citizen, if you get other citizenships, you have to renounce your Dutch citizenship, or is that? But I
have no idea.
There's certain exceptions to that.
Ah, okay.
And I think because his
grandmother,
grandmother, I think that the immediate family thing is one of the exceptions.
Yeah, his grandmother was born in the West Indies. Was it West or East? I don't know. Whichever one it is.
Dutch East Indies.
Yeah, Dutch East Indies.
The West Indies is Bermuda.
Yeah. The East Indies, yeah. That's what
I only smoke in the mid to late afternoons.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the early mid evenings. It's an old Steve Martin
Or
joke.
in Key West just all the time.
Right. Very good. All right. So anything else about the big win over Houston, the Dynamo? Well, wait. Yes, there is something else we have to talk about. The kid assignment.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I understand that there are a certain group of people that when in the past Dallas has played in their red and Houston has played in their orange, that there has been some concerns of people's ability to make on television the difference between those two. Although Dallas always wears a dark colored pant, but I'm also not colorblind. So maybe I'm not the right person to talk about this. But with Dallas's new Afterburner kit, that is a navy blue kit with navy blue shorts. There is no reason why they couldn't have both worn their primary kits on Saturday night.
Yeah. I mean, my only assumption, and I hope this is true, is that we know that there is a certain number of games required for them to wear their white jersey at home.
They've already had to have eclipsed that guarantee.
I know
at this point.
That's the thing, is like the only thing I can come up with is like there must be something about later in the season that they were forced to go white at home, like the first 3 or 4 games or something. I haven't looked at it. I can't possibly tell you what it is, but it's mind-boggling that we've only seen the blue jersey twice this year, and we're not going to see it again this weekend either, because Toronto wears the red, the dark thing at home. So Dallas will be in all white again.
Yeah, I saw somebody online say they had posted that promotional item about Jesus racking up appearances for the club or something, some sort of mark, and it was him in his Afterburner jersey, and somebody said, something about that just struck me as weird, and I realized it was the first time I'd ever seen Jesus wearing that jersey, because he's never worn it in a game.
Yeah. Well, they always wear the road kit at home like once early to try and get you to buy some,
right,
because you're going to see that thing a lot. And then I think it's literally like half the home games they have to wear this other sponsor. It's
because
a lot
of the dual sponsorship.
Because of the dual sponsorship thing. If it's not half, it's close to half. And then so you start looking at teams, and it's like, later in the year or whatever, I'm sure somebody made some calculation. I certainly hope they didn't just, for whatever reason, decide, like, we're going to wear the white one a whole bunch for some reason. I can't possibly understand what it was. And I doubt anyone will tell us, but it's mind-boggling how often it's been.
I just wish the league was like, I think Spain and the Premier League and the Football League have it, but you're only allowed to wear the away kit at home like a certain number of times.
I'm sure if we sat down with the schedule and looked at the other team's jerseys.
I did it earlier in the year. We did it on Discord.
Yeah, there'd be cases where it was like, oh, I want to wear my blue at home, but the other team has 2 versions of a blue jersey, so you're screwed. So you got to wear the white. Like if you played San Jose or Montreal or Vancouver or whoever you can come up with after that, you can assume probably that both versions of their light and their dark jersey are blue. And so you're like, well,
San
Dallas can't wear
Jose
blue.
was one of the games they played in the blue kit.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's why you end up with being forced to wear it more than you would think this early. It's just a happenstance of schedule. I'm assuming. Otherwise, I don't understand it all.
Watch them wear the away kit at home against Orlando later in the season to make Orlando wear purple.
Maybe they hate the blue, the one that they've designed. It's always possible that like they had this grand idea, and then Adidas made it, and they said, "Well, that sucks. Let's wear the white one a bunch."
Yeah, maybe they've all come to the same conclusion that the rest of us have.
It's not an FC Dallas
cool kit, but it's not a Dallas shirt.
Yeah,
nope,
not
at all.
I've got it. They're waiting until later in the season to figure out what the fuck the afterburner is.
Yes, I will share with you guys in the last couple of weeks, at least twice, if not 3 times, in completely independent conversations out of the blue, somebody has said to me, "Hey, I saw this billboard driving around. What does afterburner mean?"
Yeah.
And I go look at it and I go, I have no idea. And 2 of the 3 said, "Does it mean is it them trying to get away from the burn identity?" And I said, "Oh, they ran away from the burn identity 20 years ago, and then they tried to capture it again last year, and now I think they did. I just tried to tell them I think they did some deal with the Air Force and
it's a lean into the burn, and then they with the Air Force, they haven't really made it quite clear enough that the overall arching thing is the Air Force thing, the military thing, because like your casual fan didn't catch all that. Like your hardcore fans know what the campaign is, but your casual fans like, what does that have to do with Dallas?
Well, I told each one of these people as a lead-in that actually Dallas is the fastest team in the league.
Oh, that's funny.
And because none of that just seems like a very funny answer to me. It would also I guess it would make sense if in fact it was true, but it is not. I also think the other observation I had about this team is and I know we've talked about this, but it was pretty interesting, is just how much older this team is. I mean, Dallas historically over the last, 10 years has been pretty famous in MLS for being one of the younger outfits in the league, but it suddenly now feels like this team is very old.
It is just compared to itself, because it's actually just still middle of the pack in terms of average, but it just has really key players that skew old. And a couple of them skew really old, like Illarramendi and Omar Gonzalez are way older than we're used to seeing. And in general, we're not seeing any teenagers really on the team. I mean, they have them. They're just not – they're down with North Texas. They're not with the first team. So that's why it feels older than it's ever felt before.
Okay.
Because, this coach was adamant about I don't want all these players I can't use. So they kind of have – they stack the developmental roster with people that are old, like Omar and Jimmy Maurer. So, that there's no really room for these homegrown signings on the first team roster really anymore. They're not making the bench. They're not making, like Solly's 18, 19 is not making the bench. All the homegrowns that are still in high school are not making the bench. So that's why it feels like that.
Well, Buzz, since you are in aforementioned Florida, there is no training report today on this particular episode, but we do have 2 games to preview, because between now and the next time we do an episode of this podcast, Dallas will have played a league game and a U.S. Open Cup game. Let's start off with the Saturday night's game against Toronto up in the good north. Yes, and as Buzz mentioned earlier, Dallas will wear the white burn jerseys again. So,
solid white shorts too. Not even the black shorts.
Oy vey.
Yeah.
Toronto, by the way, is in 4th in the East.
Yeah. They turned their team around quick, didn't they?
They did. Well, they got a lot of money put in that thing. Somebody better turn that thing around pretty quick.
Yeah, well, good coaching helps. I think, in a lot of ways you can't when you have a group that you start that performs pretty well, you kind of have to let those guys ride a little bit, with the caveat that, injuries are still a factor. Like obviously, Jesus can't go 90, but I do think that's the key. The one key is like Jesus, you'll want to, as long as he came through the game unscathed, comes through training unscathed, you'll want to try and increase his minute load up to maybe like 55, 60, which means he needs to start. He's too important a player. So like ordinarily you might say to your guys, hey, the 11 that did a great job, you guys are in again. Well, that ain't going to be the case this time because he's too important. So your first question is, how do you get him in? And that's pretty obvious. You take Delgado out and you put Jesus in. That's easy. But then everybody else, I actually think will be the same because we talked about the two-way game Farfan's going to give you. We talked about Ema playing pretty well defensively and trying to showing a little bit better. You've got your three center backs that played solidly. Like there's no one pressing those guys to get back in the game. I don't think Omar, was fine, but he wasn't like, oh yeah, keep him and move to Costa Rica or whatever. Illarramendi and Frazier's your best combo. I really think that it's basically going to be the same 11 with just Jesus in there instead of Delgado. Because coach is going to want that defensive first mentality on the road like he always does. That's why it'll be Farfan and Tuamasi, in my opinion. That's the only swing would you put Paul Arriola back at wing back and bring in somebody like a Bernie or whatever that has done a couple of decent performances off the bench now. It's one of those underneath players. But with this coach, with his on-the-road grind mentality that he has, I don't think he will. I think it's the same thing with just Jesus starting instead of Patrickson. So that one's pretty simple, I think.
Okay.
I mean, can you guys think of anybody on the roster that you feel like is really banging the door down like that guy needs to be in the lineup? There's not really anybody,
No, and again, I think that's part of the problem of doing this. I think we want as a podcast to come in here and be positive about everything, and the team won and fair enough. But that wasn't the type of win that instilled a ton of confidence or made me feel like a lot of things are fixed or corrected. And it's not like a lot of these injured players are coming back. Jesus coming back is great for this team. And obviously he probably won't make it worse, but Jesus has got to go back to being Jesus, not post Gold Cup Jesus.
Yeah, I think what's most important for this coach in terms of getting this team going in the right direction and keeping his job, is like you have to get the small positives that you found. You have to keep them going in the right direction, and that means getting Jesus back and integrated. That means Farfan probably being in there and being a stabilizing force. Maybe there's some pieces you can move around here and there that have to do with matchups when you feel like you have different circumstances, but then you also can't fight against this coach's nature, which is going to be the defensive first mindset on the road. And then you look at the guys that are available. It's like Farrington, Siki and Sebeling, Carl Sante, Bernie Kamungo. Like if Delgado doesn't start, is he in over Frazier? No. It's like none of those guys are knocking the door down saying, start me with their actions and with their play. Mm-hmm. You have some pieces on the bench that you feel like you want to develop over time. None of them are like, let's go, so it's like it really is. A lot of times these things are pretty obvious, I think, in terms of how the formation that you'll see out on the field from any given week to week based on who's healthy more than anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting as you go through the roster like that. That reminds me of a conversation that was taking place in your Discord. And by the way, I'll take this moment to remind everybody listening to this free pod that if you want to participate in a good group of Burn fans and the true curious, give Buzz a couple bucks every month and he'll give you access to his Discord. And there was a conversation going on about the hot seats around the league. And there were some Dallas fans giggling over the fact that Oscar Pereira and Gary Smith in Nashville were being listed as even hotter seats than Nico. And I think there may be an argument about that because those are teams with very high expectations and considerably better rosters than Dallas does. And while Dallas may not be performing even as well as they are, I just think maybe if, in fact, Nico's seat isn't as hot, that may be just a reflection of everybody's where everybody's expectations are set for this team, considering the roster.
I think at this point, I 100% agree with all that. I think you're exactly on point that there probably are hotter jobs. Certainly Lucci's hot seat is probably hotter than Nico's. I think the only X factors you have at this point are, again, health, right? Is Leggett healthy? Because he's been pretty solid. So, like, you could play him in multiple spots. You could bring him in for Frazier. You can bring him in and play him next to Illarramendi, but that's on the road. I might like a little more of that Frazier Steele. You could bring him in instead of Paul up top, play him with Jesus and Musa, and then Paul could be that wing back. But then again, would this coach want the more defensive Ema Tomasi at wing back over Paul on the road in Toronto? Maybe Paul has some savvy and some experience that might come in handy there instead. And really, that's about it, other than possibly Eugene Ansah. Could you put Ansah up top next to Musa and Jesus a little more underneath them, possibly? So those are maybe some small X factors, but I really think with the way the team performed last game, you kind of need to let those guys ride a game or two and see what happens, and other than putting in Jesus. So, and I agree with your assessment that there are other teams that are underperforming. Just as we were talking about how we thought Oscar had righted the ship in Orlando, he went and lost to Toronto at home. Right. So, Toronto's playing really well too, and that's going to be a very tough place to go play. I would not feel at all good about FC Dallas going in there with any chance to get much of a result, given how good Toronto's been, frankly.
Yeah, it is interesting that in fourth, Toronto has not been a high-scoring team. They've only scored 11 goals. They've allowed 13, so their goal differential, even despite being a top 4 team in the East, is a -2. But they've only lost the one game at home, so it'll be a good test. Traveling in MLS is always a bad starting point for any team. Not many teams travel well and get results. So, hey.
Isn't it funny how, their goal differential is not that different from Dallas. They're at -2 instead of -3.
Right.
It's like, sometimes results aren't necessarily about the volume of what you're doing. It's about how it matches up with what you're doing, like who you played, when your goals come, that kind of thing. Toronto got results and Dallas doesn't. Houston and Dallas are very similar in the way they play. Houston's got results and Dallas hasn't. So it's not always necessarily just how you play or how well you're performing. It's how you actually manage the game and get goals or don't get goals, and when they come. It can make a vast difference.
So then the following Tuesday, Dallas comes back to Frisco and plays in their U.S. Open Cup game. And I got to tell you, it's really weird. And I don't know if this is a Dallas thing. I don't know if this is an MLS thing. And I don't know if this is a byproduct of all the MLS versus Open Cup drama that took place in the offseason. But the club is not making a lot of effort to promote that particular game. If you go to the website, it's in the schedule. But the graphics for the games that are coming up are the Toronto game and the Austin game. And I've seen some people online talk about how some of the promotional stuff they're getting in email from the club, if they're season ticket holders, doesn't even talk about the Open Cup game. And so I don't really have a sense, Buzz, as to where this club's head is at with the Open Cup these days.
Yeah, I think you might be right about the league not wanting to make a big deal about the Open Cup because of their whole shenanigans going on with that, which is a shame. But I also think that FC Dallas has always struggled massively to get anybody at all to come out and watch the Open Cup games. That they may have just gone into given up mode. Like, why should we spend money marketing that thing when no one's going to come anyway?
But why did they stop playing Open Cup games in other locations around Dallas-Fort Worth? Like, when they played those games at SMU, they were a blast.
I honestly think they forgot.
Oh. Because
the pandemic happened, and then we went like 2 years without an Open Cup, and when we came back, everyone was like, oh, yeah, we forgot we used to do that. And part of it, too, is, again, it's the cost of, like, having a game set up and run at those other facilities, I think. I'm not really sure why, but honestly, like when we first brought it up, a lot of people were like, "Oh, they used to do that." And I was like, yeah,
"Oh my gosh!" Back in the Dallas Burn days, remember when they used to play at like a high school? They played a couple games at like at Duncanville one year, and God, I have to put
Old Panther Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, what was the other one? There was one over in East Dallas they played in one year, and didn't they play an Open Cup game at UT Dallas up in Richardson off of Campbell?
I don't remember that one. I remember they played multiple at SMU, of course.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic, the last 2 or 3 years they'd done that.
Yeah, that's that little all those fields that are in front of the university on Campbell, between Central and Preston.
They didn't play an Open Cup game there. That's where the Miami FC game versus
Dallas
Roma game when they knocked off and went deep into the cup. That's where they played their game.
That's
Dallas Roma
right.
did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But
Dallas
way back
played,
in the Yeah, but way back in the 90s, in the early years, the Open Cup games were definitely played at various high schools around Dallas Fort Worth.
I like that. When they did the SMU and then they did TCU before that. I was waiting for them to do the UNT one just to complete it. I do wonder how much of it has to do with the fact that now they have to have everything streamed, so Toyota Stadium has that built in at no cost.
That's true. They wouldn't have to do a setup there. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I think they've got to have a bit of an enhanced setup compared to previous years as well.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably a really good shout. I just thought it was easier for them to hold it at at Toyota Stadium than farm it out and have to do all the hoo-ha to get it played someplace else in town. I'm with you, Buzz. On Tuesday night, like, what do you like? Put an over and under on what you think the attendance of the Memphis game will be.
Oh my gosh!
They're also charging full price for that. It's not a discount rate like Open Cup normally is.
What?
Yeah.
It's full league prices. But I did get a sales email the other day that was if you buy a full price Open Cup ticket, you'll get like a free Austin ticket. Or heavily discounted.
Huh? Well, that makes no sense. Why would you sell Open Cup tickets at a league price?
I don't know what they are. So the attendance is going to be terrible. It'll be less than 5,000. It'll be like a couple thousand people at most.
So this all sounds very conspiratorial, but is that an effort to try to just point out to everybody who was unhappy with MLS's attitude about the Open Cup, just to say, look, nobody comes to these games anyway?
It certainly could be.
Honestly, it's probably just cockiness. We've had all these sellouts in a row. We can do it.
Will there be 5,000 people there Tuesday night?
No,
there'll be maybe 1.5 at tops.
What will they announce?
7,000.
19,096.
Awesome.
Peter, let's go old school Dallas Cup for you. 2001, Old Panther Field in Duncanville.
Yes.
When the Seattle Sounders Select beat the Burn, which is a PDL team, beat the Burn 3-2 with the great Billy Sleeth kicking the snot out of Chad Deering all over the field. Do you remember that game?
What year was that? That would have been
2001.
2000.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was an absolute smashing. Yeah. Billy Sleeth got an MLS contract out of that game. If you remember, he signed with Chicago,
days.
I think.
Yes, crazy. Good Lord. Oh.
But that was a fourth division team, effectively. That's like playing Texas United or the Vaqueros or Denton and losing.
Poor Chad came back from his vaunted Germany Bundesliga career and ended it playing at Southlake on the turf. Yeah. Poor guy. Oy vey, those were the days. All right. So anything else about the Open Cup game worth?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think they're going to throw out there, Buzzard?
Well, first let's celebrate Knight Pickering coming home. Great FC Dallas Academy product who signed for Memphis 901. He's the guy that Lucci used to bring to first team training all the time. He's a 9.
Kick-ass name.
Yeah, Knight Pickering. He's got a great name. Phenomenal goal poacher. All he does is score goals. So he's coming home. Hopefully they start him because I can't wait to see him. I haven't seen him play in a couple of years, obviously, since before he left.
When did he leave Birmingham and go to Memphis?
You're confusing him with Matthew Corcoran, who was at Birmingham. Pickering signed straight with Memphis.
Ah, okay. Then I am getting that backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Corcoran is the one that I raved about as one of the best midfielders I've ever seen come through this academy, and he left to go to Birmingham.
Tim Howard is part owner of Memphis, I believe.
Emerson Heineman's there too.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Wow.
Yeah. So you might see some ex-Dallas connections for sure. Maybe Emerson will play too. That'd be cool.
Former Cherry's great.
Yeah.
Emerson Heineman.
So this it's tough to gauge what you're going to see in an Open Cup game because I went back and looked at last year's game and that was against Nashville. So the coach is a lot more likely to run out like a full team because it's against Nashville. So against the USLC team, when he's trying to save his butt in the league, does he really want to invest a lot of energy or playing time in this game? Like, for example, there's no way in hell he'll start Jesus, I don't think, trying to get back from this hamstring problem. I would probably assume he won't start Illarramendi. In fact, I would assume he won't start most of his normal 11.
Well, he's got Austin Cup in just a few days later.
I would assume that he'll roll, relatively close to a what I would call a second 11 because he has guys in that group that he's still trying to coach up and develop, like Farrington, Kamungo, Sealy, Herbert Indele. Like all those are obvious guys. Carl Sande they just signed. So I think you can look at like basically a second group. Like Nolan Norris would be great. Delgado, who started a bunch of first team games, would be great. Omar in there, Jimmy Maurer in goal, Corsa in net. Like basically, it'll be pretty much straight across the board, in my opinion, a second team game. I'm gonna make one prediction for a North Texas call up for this game. I'm gonna predict that they bring up Diego Garcia and start him. Daniel, you know who he is, of course. He's this kid from El Paso that they signed from El Paso Locomotive.
Even I know who he is.
Yeah, oh, good. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
had a good preseason.
He did. Had a great preseason. They took him to Spain, and they took Pedrinho to Spain also. But then Pedrinho had the compartment surgery, so he just got back. But Garcia is one of, if not North Texas' best players. So I think he'll be the one exception. And otherwise, other than maybe like one or two other bodies possibly, I think you'll pretty much see your second 11 choice because those are all guys that he's trying to develop, and this is a really good opportunity to play them and give them some minutes. With the possible exception of somebody like maybe Omar doesn't need the minutes, so maybe you might, stick with Nkosi or something, or maybe you want to give Farfan a little more minutes and try and push his fitness a little bit. So maybe you could use him possibly. So,
are you guys with me that compartment syndrome surgery is the silliest sounding surgery known to mankind?
At first I heard about it, I thought that's crazy. But Brandon Cervania had it too, if I remember correctly. Dan, am I not losing my mind on that one? I think Brandon had it.
I believe so.
Yeah, it happens more often than you would think. It's people that have it swear by it. So, although it's probably tough to get through painful to get through, but I imagine once you do, it's good. Yeah, it sounds like you got to be kidding. Why would you do that? But apparently, it really works.
I just kind of wish they had called it something other than compartment.
Yeah,
that just sounds
compartment syndrome or whatever it is. Yeah,
it sounds like something you'd get from Crate and Barrel or the Container Store.
I would explain it, but if anyone doesn't know what that is, just go Google it. You'll see what it is.
Be careful. You never know where you might land on the web.
Of it, just Google what it is.
You may end up in the dark web. Okay, so that game against Memphis, 7:30 up in Frisco on Tuesday, and then Dallas hosts Austin the following Saturday.
Yeah, I just can't see Coach going all in on 100%, like starting 11, like go win the Cup just because he's got bigger fish to fry.
No.
Yeah, but it'll still be mostly FC Dallas players. I think you only see the one or two.
It's interesting how the Memphis season is almost a mirror image of FC Dallas's. Won the first game, went without a win. In their case, they lost 5 in a row, and then just won the last game.
With a man advantage, by chance?
They don't. No, they didn't. But I don't know what happened. Birmingham Legion just crapped the bed, apparently.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, look at us. I was trying to think anything else I wanted to talk about or ask you guys about, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, looking at this roster for Memphis, they got Tyler Derrick too. They got a couple like former MLS players on this team, other than Emerson Hyman, of course, who played in the Premier League. That's incredible how far, because he's not even 30 yet. It's amazing what happened there.
It's crazy, man. There are just things that happen in my life that just remind me how old I am all of a sudden, because I clearly remember Emerson Hyndman being the kid that Buzz, you and I used to talk about, which was, so everybody knows, Emerson is the grandson of Shellis Hyndman, who was the coach at the time. And for those who are relatively new to this team, there was a very well-known ongoing scenario that was taking place at training where Shellis would invite Emerson to come train with the first team. And Buzz, I'm sure you can tell the stories about how that there was not a small percentage of the starting of the senior team that was not happy about that.
He was 12 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I will say in his defense, at 12 years old, he could keep up with training. They would put him in like the drills and the first half of training. They wouldn't put him in scrimmages. But I'm sure there were some people who didn't like it, because if you're a grown-ass man playing professional football, you don't like to turn around and have some 12-year-old in the drills with you.
And you're not going to crack the kid.
No, no. Not a 12-year-old. But he stuck around in training, and by the time we last Shellis was still here, he was quite 5 or 6 years older at that point. He was 16, 17. He really could keep up. He was phenomenal by that point.
Yeah.
So
when he left Dallas, where did he go overseas? Because he didn't go straight to Bournemouth. He went somewhere else, didn't he?
Fulham.
That's right. Yeah,
because he played Dallas Cup for Fulham, didn't he?
Yeah, I think you're right, Dan. Yeah,
I'd have to Google that one, but I that sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Emerson back in the day was the kid. It was really crazy because this is all pre-academy and everything like that. Emerson was the kid who was playing on a Dallas youth team, and the local media would do stories about and have video of him juggling the ball in his backyard.
Oh, he was
or something
incredible.
like that. Yeah. And then he left. He was kind of like the original Dallas homegrown without being a Dallas homegrown, if that makes any sense. And fascinating story. And the fact that his career has gone by so much that he's playing on a USL championship team and coming back to play in Dallas all feels very full circle.
Yeah. I mean, I think technically he played for FC Dallas's youth club for like a season or something. And then he went to Fulham in 2011.
Because wasn't he a Texan? Didn't he play for Dallas Texans prior to that, though?
Probably, because I'm sure Shellis knows what's his name over there. I mean, you remember before Dallas started their academy, Texans was the shit. I mean, those guys produced pro after pro after pro out of that academy. I mean, just an amazing club up until Dallas stole all their thunder. So, that's a whole different story. But, I'm pretty sure you're right. I believe he did play for Texans. It's not mentioned in his Wikipedia, but I remember
he wasn't or was he a Solar player? Or I don't remember.
He might have been. It was somebody other than Dallas.
Yeah, well, fascinating stuff. It'll be interesting to see all of those guys back in Dallas playing. Hopefully it'll be an entertaining game, and probably would be if Dallas, well, I don't know, entertaining. It'll be, whatever.
I always find them entertaining.
It'll be thrilling to see, especially if Dallas throws out their B team.
Because any team that comes in here, a USL championship team, everybody on that team, here's my shot. To them, it's a Super Bowl. It's a chance to prove, I'm as good as an MLS player. Maybe an MLS team will see me. Maybe a Dallas will see me. I'm just as good as these guys. And so they always play out of their minds. Yeah. And so it's always a very competitive game. Dallas only wins, half of these things against these lower division teams, I swear.
Well, fun. I don't know if I've told you guys, but my plans have been solidified. My wife and I are going to be in LA in late May, early June for the back-to-back LA games.
You're doing the double?
We're doing the double, yeah.
Somebody else told me that too. I'm so jealous.
And we're going to Disneyland.
That's fun.
Hey. Yes. So
I'm more jealous of the double.
If any of the curious are also going to be at the games, please let me know. It'll be fun to bump into everybody out in La La Land.
Have a third-degree picture outside the arena.
Okay, I'll just take I don't like selfies, but
I still wanted to go. I have to work 2 days later.
Why can't you go, Buzz? Come on, Buzz.
I was gonna RV it. I was gonna take my trailer out there. I had a whole thing, and then I had to go.
Can I make a suggestion? You and Dan RV out to LA together.
No, I can't.
Meet me there. No, you can, Buzz, if you really wanted to.
I'd have to park my RV in LA for a week and a half. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
I'm leaving my truck and my RV in LA for a week.
Crap. All right. Dan, why don't you come to LA?
I don't think my work schedule would allow it, unfortunately. Or money.
Don't either one of you guys get vacation?
Yeah. Hey, Peter, I'm in Key West right now.
Oh, right. Forgot.
I was in the UK a couple of months ago.
All right, whatever.
Soccer games to watch.
Could go to Idaho in 3 months.
Okay.
Maybe I'll look into it. Maybe I can pull it together.
Mickey Mouse ears for everybody.
I'm not going to Disneyland.
You don't want to go to Disneyland?
I just went to Disney 4 months ago.
Oh, okay.
In Florida.
That's right. All right. Well, I haven't been I think the last time I went to Disneyland in LA, I went with my grandfather, and I was probably 9 years old.
Amy took me a few years ago. I
Yeah.
can't remember when that was. That was maybe a decade ago.
I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what all the new Jim Jam's about. All right. Well, anything else that we need to discuss about good old football club Dallas Burn?
Not really. I don't. North Texas is undefeated, which is fun.
Yeah. Hall of Fame stuff's this weekend.
Yeah, I don't pay
I'll be there.
Oh, will you?
I will.
All right. Yeah, Andy has to skip the show this weekend because he's doing all the Hall of Fame rigmarole. So
they're going to stream it on Peacock this year.
I saw that. What are they doing that for? Like, what are they streaming? The actual ceremony of inducting people into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Hey, more power to them.
I don't think I know. I think I don't remember. I know I've read the press release that says who is getting inducted, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Is Tim Howard one of them?
Tim Howard is one of them.
Okay. Wait,
Tim Howard is honestly the only one I've heard of.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think if I could remember any. How many are there total?
4 plus the media one.
Do you know any of them, Buzz, off the top of your head?
No
cheating?
No idea. No idea.
Okay. All right.
I got the press release from US Soccer earlier. So it is Tim Howard, Francisco Marcos, Josh McKinney, and Tisha
Venturini, yeah.
Hawk.
Yeah,
she's a good player.
Yeah. Dan, if you're going, I'm just going to give you a piece of advice. If you're going to interview Tim Howard and you're going to be anywhere near him, wear your sunglasses.
Take singles. Wear your sunglasses.
He's got the whitest teeth of any human being you've ever met. Oh,
right.
Life.
Okay.
I thought you were saying he was going to cuss at you.
It's like 32 LED flashlights in his mouth shining right at your face. It's insane.
Yeah, they do kind of like a weird mix zone in the press conference room for all that. So I'll keep that in mind. I'll wear like 2 pairs of sunglasses just to be on the safe side.
He is a super nice guy to interview, and those are the most fantastic teeth I've ever seen in my life. So
played for Bayern United.
Probably, yeah, I'm sure, probably so. And he's huge too, by the way. He's a mountain of a human being. All right, well, anything else, and we'll shut up shop.
I'm just gonna stick with my hot take that they still ignore the top tier professional league in this country way too much in terms of the Hall of Fame. They don't give anybody credit for having played in this league in terms of getting in there. It's just men's national team members, and that's it. They don't give a shit about this league at all, and that sucks.
Wow, there is a hot sports opinion. If there's somebody that has not been inducted into the Hall of Fame that would fall into the category of satisfying what you're complaining about, who would that be?
Well, they finally put in Marco Echeverri, and that was like 24 years ago. So like there's a whole bandwidth of people that have done amazing things in this league that aren't in there. I mean, like, is Roy Lassiter in there? I don't think so. Is he?
No, probably
not. He might be because he played for the national team. But like, I mean, obviously one for me is, I'm biased as hell, of course, on this one is Jason Christ, but he did some immaculate stuff. But then like, you can get into guys like Jaime Moreno, or you can get into guys that have just done incredible things in this league that are out of this league now that are not getting any recognition at all. I think it's ridiculous.
Just for shits and giggles. No. Just for shits and giggles, can we go through the finalists that were actually voted on?
Sure. And
get a yes or no. Chris Aarons. Yes or no?
I don't even know who Chris Aarons is.
Okay, there you go. Kyle Beckerman.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. How long has he been out of the league?
Long enough to be eligible.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say yes.
Oh, he was on his first year of eligibility.
Oh, Chris Aarons is a Paralympic player.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that
guy.
Who? What?
Laurie Chalupny.
Oh, Chalupny.
I guess. Yeah. I guess. Let me just go through the MLS. D-Ro, De Rosario.
Hell yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Adu.
No, hell no.
No.
Henry.
No. Holden. I mean, not for his part in Major League Soccer. No.
I mean, if it's the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame, does Thierry Henry deserve to be in it for his brief spell at Red Bull? And there's a part of me that says, well, no. I mean, I don't know, dude. I mean, there's a marketing part of it too. But okay, no. So who was next?
Stuart Holden.
No.
Tim Howard.
Yes.
EJ.
Yes.
But here, wait, does Tim Howard get in? But hold on a second. Johnson? Does Tim Howard get in because of his national team stuff or because of his MLS stuff? It's absolutely his national team stuff and his the rest of his career, not because he played in MLS.
Yeah, but I would have given it to him for what he did in MLS. That's what I'm saying. Like the only guys that are getting
But he
in are
didn't
getting
do
in because
anything in
they have
MLS,
the
Buzz.
MLS. How many years did he play in
3
MLS?
maybe?
Well, he started, but he was a
Colorado.
No, before
Oh,
he went to
wait, that's right. That's right. He did start at Metro Star. That's where that's the first time I interviewed him at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, and then the Rapids. Okay,
Okay.
that's borderline, but it still underlines my point that he's got in for
Right,
the U.S.
okay,
soccer star part. Right, no one's getting.
I'm
in
enjoying
for
this
what they did in
game.
MLS.
Go, keep going, Dan.
Let's see. Jermaine Jones is there. That's national team. Showery Joseph.
That's an interesting one.
And I don't think he was healthy.
Yeah.
He's close.
I mean, there's a weird
go
fine
ahead.
line, Dan, where there are so few kind of outstanding names that you recall from the past that you'd almost say yes to anybody because we've done such a poor job of doing this. Like, does that make sense, Buzz?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go for the real MLS longer time. Nick Romando.
Yes.
100%, right?
Yes.
100%.
Carlos Ruiz.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. He led the league in scoring like 6 years.
And he was such a character. I mean, he was easily the most hateable dude in the league every year, even when he was playing for your own team.
Chris Armas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eddie Lewis.
100%. Eddie Lewis, borderline, but probably no.
Clint Mathis.
Yes.
100% yes. 100%.
Tony Sani.
Don Eddie's not in, but close. So those are both borderline for me.
That's really it for MLS guys.
Interesting.
But like we just listed off like 5 dudes in 5 minutes that should be in there for me as the locks that aren't even really getting like 12% of the vote.
And that's not even the just the eligible. That was just the finalists that John and all them people have gone through and said, yeah, these guys are, these are our picks.
Yeah, I still think it holds true. The bottom line is that nobody gets in there if they're not a significant contributor to the U.S. men's national team. Like I said, they finally put in Echeverry, who was like the MVP of this league for like 6 straight seasons and won 4 out of 6 titles or whatever in the first, whatever it was. I'm throwing numbers out there, but
would you would you put Valderrama in U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame?
No, because he didn't play here long enough. But I would put, like I said, Jason Kreis in. Because at one point he was the leading scorer of the league all time. I think he was the first player to 100. He was, he was a substantial, massive part of this league for like a decade. And to me, that's enough. He's got several records that will never be broken.
Okay.
Like first American-born MVP, first 15 and 15 player in the league, first player to score for 2 franchises. That record will never be broken. I'm saying the guy was. And he's just the tip of the iceberg for there's a whole bunch of players. He's probably even like 15th on the list of guys that deserve it before him.
You need to go get a pina colada, Buzz.
I have one today.
Get another.
I'm just saying that I don't think MLS gets enough respect out of the people that are voting for the Hall of Fame. They only vote for national team players.
It doesn't. I'm looking at the eligibility list for the veteran vote, which means they've fallen off their player eligibility. So I mean, there's so many MLS players that you would say, even if they weren't like nailed on, for contributions to domestic soccer, guys like Jeff Cunningham, like Frankie Hajduk, Kevin Hartman, I guess you could say Dom Kinnear as a player and a coach.
Is Alexi Lawless in?
Jason Christ.
I don't think he is. He is in.
No?
Well, he should be if he isn't. Yeah.
He is in the Hall of Fame, but Dan?
I think he is. Let's take a look.
He may have been put in before it came to Dallas. That's why we don't recall it, if he is in.
He was elected in 2006.
Yeah, so before the Hall of Fame was here. So,
Ronnie O'Brien's eligible. Josh Wolf.
Well, that's a no, but still. I love Ronnie, but that's a no.
Taylor Twellman.
Next time I see Ronnie, I'm going to ask him if he thinks he should be in the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame, and he may not stop laughing for about 37 hours.
Put it to a fan vote. I mean, when your Time Magazine's man of the century, why would you bother putting the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame?
Oh, that is such a great Dallas story.
Yeah, it's going to be really funny is when David Beckham, who fell off the player vote, is on the veteran vote, eventually gets elected on the builder vote for Inter Miami.
Yeah. Well, he could get it on the builder vote for LA
Oh,
Galaxy.
by the way,
True.
I got us. Andy and I had this conversation. Or was it Andy and I? don't remember who it was that had this conversation the other day. I honestly have to just stop and tip my cap because I can't believe Messi played on the turf at Gillette Field and scored those banger goals, by the way. He has showed up and he's done it. I mean, dude, he showed up and he's playing and he's banging goals and making magic and he's being the best player in the world, making the league look stupid, exactly what they wanted him to do. He's not wussing out and feigning, I don't want to play on different surfaces, and I just feel like he deserves a shout out for that.
So you're saying he would, in fact, have done it on a cold Tuesday in Stoke-on-Trent?
Yes. If he could do it on a cold Saturday night on the turf outside of Boston, Massachusetts, yes, absolutely.
I enjoyed the funny bit the other day where he was at I think it was an NBA game, and they did the requisite, Lionel Messi's here with the graphic and everything, and they show him, and he's sitting with Busquets and Jordi Alba. And nobody says shit about Busquets about Alba.
Did you see Florentino Perez was at a Mavs game?
Yes.
Last week?
Because Luka.
But then he appeared at the Austin game too.
By the way, for those not paying attention, Miami leads the league in goals scored on 26 goals. The nearest team close to them is Portland, of all teams, with 20, who are in 11th place, by the way. Oh, no, I'm sorry. LA, I'm sorry. The Galaxy have 21. I missed that. But 26 goals is ridiculous in 11 games.
Only Portland's giving up more. Oh, no, yeah. San Jose 25. Woo.
Nicely done, boys. Excellent stuff. Good, fun stuff there at the end. I love that. I love me a game. All right. Well, Dan, you got anything else you want to throw in there?
Nah.
All right, Buzz, would you like to treat to everybody sing us out with a Jimmy Buffett song?
No, I would not. You wouldn't want to hear me sing. But I will be at the Open Cup game.
Boy, I would.
Everybody can come hang out at the Open Cup game if they want.
Would you like to tell everybody where you'll be sitting so they can come sit with you?
In the stands. There'll be like 100 people there. It'll be easy to find me. Yeah. I'll be the one man spreading over like 6 seats because I can.
Gross. Awesome. Well, Buzz, have fun. When are you back from Florida?
Well, I'm going to finish wasting away in Margaritaville here today and tomorrow, and then I'll be back Monday.
What are you covering down there?
Some football. It's called OT7. It's high school 7-on-7 football.
Good Lord. Is that actually broadcast on a network kind of thing?
Right. Let me put it this way. You know how much ratings MLS gets?
Yeah.
This is like 10 times that. So
whoa!
Don't oh my lord me at that crap because
no. I'm not dissing it. I'm impressed. It's like football is such a thing in this country that even 7v7 high school football gets somebody like Buzz Carrick out covering it. I mean, that's how big of a deal it is. Please don't misunderstand my reaction.
Most of it's on YouTube, which is, believe it or not, there's lots of large productions on YouTube these days. But some of it is on NFL Network too.
Did you did you do the games in Dallas as well?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I kept seeing. I got a press release for that for some weird reason.
Yeah, the Dallas Sports Commission put out some stuff about it to get people to come out, and watch. So.
All right.
It's a big deal. There's some big time players in this thing.
I'm sure there is. Yeah, the future NFLers.
Third Degree the Podcast is brought to you by Soccer90.com, your source for all your FC Dallas, U.S. national team, and international club gear. Check out the new national team gear that's arrived just in time for Copa America and Euro 2024. Argentina, France, Germany, Brazil, all the big guns are in stock now. As a Third Degree listener, get 20% off in-store or online with the code Third Degree. Just mention it at checkout or use it online. Soccer90.com. Some exclusions may apply. This episode of Third Degree the Podcast is also brought to you by the Lindstrom Law Firm for wills, trusts, probates, and business law. Call 469-515-2559 or visit lindstromlawfirm.com for a free consultation.
Well, Buzz, have fun down there. Tell Amy we all said hello. Watch out for the upside down pineapple. Don't, whichever way you guys swing.
Not
like
say.
That.
No.
Okay. All right.
No.
Have fun. All right, guys. Thank you, FC Dallas Curious fans. Let's go team, and we will speak to you next week, hopefully with 2 big wins on another episode of Third Degree the Podcast.
This is the winning feeling.
Ooh. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.